There's a specific moment that happens to all of us. It's quiet, it's small, and most people never even notice it. It's the moment between what happens to you and what you decide to do about it. Marcus Aurelius called it the space where freedom lives. But here's the truth most people refuse to accept. That space is shrinking. Every single day, you're training yourself to react faster, feel harder, and lose control quicker. You're becoming weaker. Not because life is harder, but because you've stopped practicing the one discipline that separates those who thrive from those who merely survive. This isn't about motivation. It's not about positive thinking. It's about something far more powerful and far more ancient. It's about mental discipline, the kind that doesn't make noise, the kind that doesn't need applause, the kind that transforms suffering into strength, chaos into clarity, and fear into wisdom. Marcus Aurelius understood this 2,000 years ago, sitting alone in a tent during war, writing to himself in the dark. He knew that the mind, left untrained, becomes a tyrant. But trained, it becomes the most powerful tool you'll ever possess. Today we're going to walk through the mental discipline that weak people ignore every single day. Not because they're bad people, but because it's uncomfortable. Because it requires you to face the parts of yourself you've been running from. And by the end of this journey, you'll understand why the strongest people you know aren't the loudest, aren't the most confident, but are the ones who've learned to rule the empire within. Before we go deeper, if this resonates with you, if you're ready to explore the uncomfortable truths that lead to real transformation, subscribe to this channel. Leave a like. Comment below with one thing you're struggling to control in your life right now. And share this with someone who needs to hear it. Because this isn't just philosophy. This is survival. This is freedom. Now let's begin. You wake up and the first thing you do is check your phone. Messages, news, problems, expectations, and immediately, without even realizing it, your mind begins to react. Someone said something that bothers you. Something didn't go as planned. You feel anxious, frustrated, maybe even angry. And just like that, within 5 minutes of opening your eyes, you've already lost control. Not of the world, but of yourself. This is where most people live their entire lives, in a constant state of reaction, responding to everything outside of them as if they have no choice, as if they're victims of circumstance, slaves to their emotions, prisoners of other people's opinions. And the tragedy is, they believe this is normal. They believe this is just how life is. But Marcus Aurelius would tell you something different. He would say, you are not a victim of your thoughts. You are the commander of them. But only if you choose to be. Let me tell you something about pain. Real pain. Not the kind that comes from a broken bone or a bad day, but the kind that comes from living a life where you are not in control of your own mind, where your emotions dictate your actions, where your fears write your story, where your anger becomes your identity. This is the pain that most people carry and never name, because naming it would mean admitting that they've been giving their power away. One reaction at a time, one unchecked thought at a time, one moment of weakness at a time. Marcus Aurelius knew this intimately. He was the most powerful man in the world, the emperor of Rome, and yet he understood that his greatest battle was not with barbarians at the gates. It was with himself. In his personal writings, which we now call meditations, he constantly reminded himself of one simple truth. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. But here's where it gets uncomfortable, because most people don't want to realize this. Because if you realize this, it means you can no longer blame anyone else. It means you can no longer hide behind excuses. It means you have to take full responsibility for the state of your inner world. And that's terrifying, because it's easier to believe that you're powerless. It's easier to stay weak. Think about the last time someone hurt you with their words. What happened inside you? Did you pause? Did you observe the emotion rising? Or did you immediately react, defend, attack, shut down? Most people do the latter. They let the outside world control their inside world. And over time, this becomes a pattern, a habit, an identity. They become reactive people. Weak people. Not because they lack intelligence or strength, but because they've never trained the one muscle that matters most, the mind. Marcus Aurelius practiced something every single day that most people never even attempt once in their lives. He practiced the discipline of perception. He would take an event, something that happened to him or around him, and he would consciously choose how to see it. Not how it made him feel, but how he chose to interpret it. This is not denial. This is not toxic positivity. This is power. Because between stimulus and response there is a space, and in that space lies your freedom. But we've lost that space. We've traded it for speed, for constant stimulation, for the illusion that we need to respond to everything immediately. We've become addicted to reaction, and that addiction is making us weaker, more anxious, more fragile, more dependent on external validation and external peace. We've forgotten that peace is not something you find. It's something you create, inside, every single day, through discipline. So let me ask you this, and I want you to really sit with it. How much of your day do you spend reacting to things you cannot control? How much energy do you waste on thoughts that do nothing but drain you? How much of your life have you given away to emotions that were never meant to rule you? And most importantly, are you ready to take that power back? Because that's what this is really about. Not becoming emotionless, not becoming cold, but becoming sovereign, becoming the ruler of your own mind. And that starts with one simple, uncomfortable truth. You are not your thoughts. You are the one who observes them. Imagine your mind as a fortress, ancient, powerful, with walls that were meant to protect you. Inside this fortress is everything that truly matters: your peace, your values, your sense of self, your inner freedom. But here's what happens to most people. Over the years, they stopped guarding the gates. They let anything walk in. Negative thoughts, toxic beliefs, other people's judgments, fear, anger, resentment, shame. And slowly, without even realizing it, the fortress becomes occupied by invaders. And the saddest part? Most people don't even know they've lost control of their own fortress. They think the chaos inside is just who they are. They think the constant mental noise, the anxiety, the self-doubt, the reactivity, they think that's just life. But it's not. It's the result of a fortress left unguarded, a mind left undisciplined. In psychology, there's a concept called the default mode network. It's the part of your brain that's active when you're not focused on anything specific. It's where your mind wanders. And for most people, that wandering is not peaceful. It's filled with regret about the past, worry about the future, judgment of themselves, comparison with others. The default mode for most people is suffering, not because they're broken, but because they've never trained their mind to operate differently. Marcus Aurelius understood this without modern neuroscience. He understood that the untrained mind is like a wild horse. Powerful, yes, but unpredictable, dangerous. It will take you wherever it wants unless you learn to hold the reins. And holding the reins doesn't mean suppressing your emotions. It means becoming conscious of them. It means observing them without becoming them. It means creating distance between the thinker and the thought. Let's go deeper. When something triggers you, what's really happening? On the surface, it feels like the event itself is causing your pain. Someone disrespected you. Someone betrayed you. Something didn't go your way. And your mind immediately creates a story. This is unfair. This shouldn't have happened. This is proof that life is against me. And that story generates emotion, anger, sadness, fear. And that emotion drives behavior. You lash out, you shut down, you spiral. But here's the truth Marcus Aurelius discovered, and that modern psychology confirms. It's not the event that's causing your suffering. It's your interpretation of the event. It's the story you're telling yourself about what it means. And that story is not objective truth. It's a choice you're making so quickly, so automatically, that it feels like it's not a choice at all. But it is. This is where the discipline comes in, the discipline of mental awareness, the discipline of catching yourself in the act of creating your own suffering. and then consciously, deliberately choosing a different story. Not a false story, not pretending everything is fine, but a wiser story. A story that doesn't hand your power over to external circumstances. Think about the Stoic practice of negative visualization. Marcus would imagine losing everything he loved, not to be morbid, but to prepare his mind, to remind himself that everything is temporary, that nothing is truly in his control except his own response. And because he practiced this, when real loss came, when real hardship arrived, he was not destroyed by it. He was prepared. His fortress was guarded. Most people do the opposite. They avoid discomfort. They distract themselves. They numb themselves. They build their entire identity on things that can be taken away. Status, appearance, possessions, other people's approval. And when those things inevitably shift, they collapse. Because they've built their fortress on sand. They've never gone inward. They've never done the hard work of strengthening the foundation. Psychologically, this is what we call external locus of control. The belief that your well-being is determined by external factors, and it's one of the strongest predictors of anxiety, depression, and chronic dissatisfaction. Because when you believe your happiness depends on things outside your control, you are, by definition, powerless. You are weak. Not because you lack talent or resources, but because you've handed your peace to forces you cannot command. But there's another way. An internal locus of control. The belief that while you cannot control what happens to you, you can always control how you respond. This is the foundation of Stoic philosophy. And it's also the foundation of psychological resilience. It's the difference between those who break under pressure and those who become stronger because of it. Marcus Aurelius faced plague, war, betrayal, loss. He had every reason to become bitter, angry, defeated, but he didn't. Because he had trained his mind, because he knew that the only fortress that mattered was the one within. And he guarded it with discipline, every single day. So here's the question you need to ask yourself. What are you letting into your fortress? What thoughts are you allowing to occupy space in your mind? What beliefs are you defending, even though they're making you weaker? And most importantly, are you willing to stand guard? Are you willing to do the uncomfortable work of becoming the protector of your own peace? Transformation is not a single moment. It's not a breakthrough or an epiphany, though those can be part of it. Real transformation is a daily practice. It's the accumulation of small, intentional choices that, over time, rewire the way you think, feel, and respond to life. And here's what makes it so difficult. You don't see the results immediately. You have to trust the process. You have to commit to the discipline even when it feels like nothing is changing. Marcus Aurelius didn't become a philosopher king overnight. He practiced. Every morning he would remind himself of the principles he wanted to live by. Every evening he would reflect on where he succeeded and where he fell short. He treated his mind like an athlete treats their body, with consistency, with rigor, with respect, because he knew that without discipline the mind becomes lazy, reactive, and weak. So let's talk about how you actually do this. How do you begin to reclaim control of your mental fortress? How do you start training your mind the way Marcus trained his? It starts with awareness. You cannot change what you're not aware of. And most people are not aware of their thoughts. They're lost in them, identified with them, consumed by them. So the first practice is simple but profound. Observe your thoughts without judgment. Notice when your mind wanders into worry. Notice when it spirals into anger or shame. Don't try to stop it. Don't fight it. Just notice, because in that noticing you create space, and in that space you reclaim power. Marcus would often write down his thoughts, not to publish them, not to impress anyone, but to see them clearly, to externalize the internal. And when you see your thoughts on paper, something shifts. They lose some of their power. They become less like absolute truths and more like passing weather patterns. You realize, I am not this thought. I am the one observing this thought. The second practice is reframing. This is where you actively choose a different interpretation. Let's say someone criticizes you. Your automatic thought might be, they think I'm worthless. They're trying to hurt me. I'm not good enough. That thought will generate pain. But what if you paused and asked, is there any truth in this feedback that could help me grow? Or, is this more about their own pain than about me? Or, what would Marcus Aurelius think about this moment? This isn't about lying to yourself. It's about choosing wisdom over reaction. It's about refusing to let your first most primitive thought dictate your emotional state. Because that first thought is usually fear-based. It's usually rooted in ego, insecurity, or old wounds. But you are not obligated to follow it. You have the power to redirect. The third practice is voluntary discomfort. This is one of the most powerful and most misunderstood aspects of Stoicism. Marcus would intentionally expose himself to hardship. Cold baths, simple meals, sleeping on the floor. Not because he was masochistic, but because he was training his mind to be resilient. He was proving to himself that he could endure discomfort without falling apart. And that training gave him confidence. It gave him strength. It gave him freedom from dependency. In modern life, we avoid discomfort at all costs. We numb with food, screens, substances, distractions. We've become so fragile that even minor inconveniences throw us off balance. But every time you choose comfort over discipline, you're making yourself weaker. You're reinforcing the belief that you need external conditions to be perfect in order to be okay. And that belief is a prison. So start small. Take a cold shower. Sit with boredom without reaching for your phone. Fast for a day. Do something that makes you uncomfortable, not because you have to, but because you choose to. Because in that choice, you're telling your mind, I am stronger than my impulses. I am in control. The fourth practice is gratitude rooted in impermanence. Marcus constantly reminded himself that everything he loved could be taken away. His children, his power, his life. And instead of making him fearful, this made him grateful. It made him present. It made him cherish what he had while he had it. Because he knew it was temporary. Most people think gratitude is just about being thankful for good things. But Stoic gratitude is deeper. It's about recognizing that you are not entitled to anything. That every breath, every relationship, every moment of peace is a gift. And when you see life this way, you stop taking it for granted. You stop complaining. You stop waiting for things to be perfect before you allow yourself to be content. Write down 3 things every day that you're grateful for. But go deeper than surface level. Don't just say, my family. Say the fact that I still have time with my family, knowing that one day I won't. Feel the weight of that. Let it change how you show up today. The fifth practice is the evening review. Marcus did this religiously. Before sleep, he would ask himself, what did I do well today? Where did I lose control? Where did I react instead of respond? Where did I give my power away? And then, without self-judgment, he would plan to do better tomorrow. Not perfectly, just better. This practice keeps you honest. It keeps you humble. It keeps you growing. Because the moment you stop reflecting, you stop improving. You become stagnant. You become unconscious. You become weak. And here's the thing. None of these practices are complicated. They don't require special tools or circumstances. They just require decision. The decision to stop living on autopilot. The decision to stop being a passenger in your own mind. The decision to become disciplined. Because discipline is not punishment. Discipline is love. It's the way you care for the most important thing you'll ever be responsible for, your own consciousness, your own inner world, your own fortress. And when you commit to these practices, something miraculous happens. Not immediately, not loudly, but gradually. You become calmer, more centered, more resilient. You stop being so easily shaken by external events. You stop needing constant validation. You stop fearing loss because you know that no matter what happens, you have yourself. And that self is strong, trained, disciplined. This is the transformation Marcus Aurelius lived, and it's available to you. But only if you're willing to do what weak people refuse to do. Show up every single day and train your mind like your life depends on it. Because it does. There are lessons Marcus Aurelius taught himself that most people never discover, not because they're hidden in obscure texts, but because they're uncomfortable. They contradict everything modern culture tells us about happiness, success, and strength. And yet, they contain some of the most liberating truths you'll ever encounter. The first hidden lesson is this: you are going to die, and not in some distant, abstract future, but sooner than you think. Marcus meditated on death constantly, not to be morbid, but to be awake. Because when you truly accept that your time is limited, that every day could be your last, you stop wasting your life on things that don't matter. You stop arguing over petty things. You stop holding grudges. You stop postponing the life you actually want to live. Most people live as if they have infinite time. They procrastinate. They tolerate toxicity. They stay in situations that drain them because they tell themselves, one day they'll make a change. But Marcus would say, one day is not guaranteed. And every moment you spend betraying yourself, you're losing something you can never get back. Your life. This is not meant to scare you. It's meant to wake you up. Because memento mori, remember you will die, is not a message of despair. It's a message of urgency. It's permission to stop living according to other people's expectations and start living according to your own values. It's permission to be brave, to be honest, to be free. The second hidden lesson: other people are not your problem. Marcus wrote, choose not to be harmed, and you won't feel harmed. Don't feel harmed, and you haven't been. This might be the most controversial idea in all of Stoicism, because it suggests that no one can actually hurt you without your permission, that your suffering is not caused by what others do, but by what you believe about what they do. Now, this doesn't mean you tolerate abuse. It doesn't mean you don't set boundaries. It means you stop giving people power over your inner state. Because when you believe that someone can make you angry, make you sad, or make you feel small, you've given them control over you. You've made yourself dependent on their behavior for your peace. And that's weakness. Marcus had to deal with betrayal, slander, incompetence, and cruelty from people around him. And yet he chose not to let their actions disturb his mind. He chose to see them as they were, flawed human beings acting out of ignorance, fear, or pain, and to respond with wisdom rather than reaction. This is not passivity. This is mastery. The third hidden lesson: your mind is the only thing that truly belongs to you. Everything else can be taken. Your body will age. Your possessions will fade. Your relationships will change. Your status will rise and fall. But your mind, your inner fortress, that is yours to command or surrender. And most people surrender it without a fight. They let advertisements tell them what they need. They let social media tell them who they should be. They let their fears tell them what's possible. They let their past tell them what they deserve. And in doing so, they lose themselves. They become strangers to their own soul. Marcus would ask himself regularly, what is preventing you from being good, just, honest, and free right now? And the answer was always, nothing but yourself. Because no external circumstance can force you to abandon your principles. No hardship can make you lose your integrity. Unless you allow it. The fourth hidden lesson: pain is inevitable, but suffering is optional. Marcus endured chronic pain for much of his life. He lived through war, disease, and personal tragedy. But he understood the difference between pain and suffering. Pain is what happens to your body or your circumstances. Suffering is what happens in your mind when you resist pain, when you tell yourself it shouldn't be happening, when you catastrophize or victimize yourself. He wrote, if you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it. And this you have the power to revoke at any moment. This is not about denying pain. It's about not adding layers of unnecessary suffering on top of it. It's about meeting life as it is, not as you wish it were. The fifth hidden lesson, and perhaps the most profound: you are not separate from the universe. You are a piece of it. a brief, beautiful expression of the same force that moves stars and shapes mountains. Marcus saw himself as part of a greater whole, and because of that, he never felt truly alone. He never felt meaningless. Even in his darkest moments, he knew he belonged. This is the spiritual dimension of Stoicism that often gets overlooked. It's not just about control or discipline, it's about connection. Connection to something larger than your ego, your fears, your temporary desires. When you see yourself this way, your problems don't disappear, but they become smaller, because you remember that you are held by something vast and eternal. And that changes everything. Marcus would remind himself, you are a soul carrying a corpse. Your true self is not your body, not your status, not your achievements. Your true self is consciousness itself, and that consciousness is indestructible. So even in the face of death, even in the face of total loss, there is a part of you that remains untouched. And when you anchor yourself there, you become unshakable. These lessons are not popular. They don't go viral. They don't promise quick fixes or easy happiness. But they offer something far more valuable: truth. And truth, when fully embraced, sets you free. Free from the need to impress. Free from the fear of judgment. Free from the tyranny of your own undisciplined mind. Marcus Aurelius didn't have it easy. He didn't live in comfort. He didn't avoid suffering. But he was free. Because he had trained his mind. Because he had embraced these hidden lessons. And because he knew that the only empire that mattered was the one within. Now let's bring this home. Let's talk about your life. Your actual, real, messy, complicated life. Because philosophy without application is just intellectual entertainment, and Marcus Aurelius wasn't interested in theory. He was interested in living well. So how do you actually apply these ancient lessons in the modern world? How do you train your mind when you're drowning in responsibilities, distractions, and noise? First, create a morning ritual. Not a complicated one. Not an hour-long routine that you'll abandon after 3 days. Something simple, something sustainable. Wake up 10 minutes earlier than you need to. Sit in silence. Breathe, and ask yourself, what kind of person do I want to be today? Not what do I want to accomplish, but who do I want to be? Do I want to be reactive or responsive? Do I want to be ruled by my emotions or guided by my values? Do I want to give my power away or protect my peace? This small practice sets the tone for everything that follows, because most people start their day in reactive mode, emails, news, problems, and they never recover. But you can be different. You can choose to begin with intention. Second, practice the pause. This is the most practical tool you can develop. When something triggers you, when you feel that surge of anger, anxiety, or defensiveness, pause. Just for 3 seconds. 3 conscious breaths. In that pause, you create space. And in that space, you remember, I have a choice here. I don't have to react the way I always react. I can choose wisdom. This sounds simple, but it's revolutionary, because most people spend their entire lives in automatic reaction. Someone criticizes them, they defend. Someone disrespects them, they attack. Something goes wrong, they panic. But you can break that pattern. One pause at a time. One conscious breath at a time. One intentional response at a time. Third, reframe your obstacles. This is pure Stoicism. When something doesn't go your way, when you face a setback, a rejection, a disappointment, pause and ask, what is this teaching me? How is this making me stronger? What would Marcus Aurelius see in this moment? Because here's the truth. Every obstacle is an opportunity to practice virtue, patience, resilience, humility, courage. The obstacle is not the enemy. The obstacle is the teacher, and the people who understand this are the ones who turn adversity into advantage. You didn't get the job? Maybe you're being redirected toward something better aligned with your purpose. Someone betrayed you? Maybe you're learning who deserves your trust and who doesn't. Your plans fell apart? Maybe the universe is teaching you to hold your goals lightly and your principles tightly. This isn't toxic positivity. This is wisdom. This is refusing to waste your energy on things you cannot change and instead focusing on how you respond. And when you practice this consistently, you become someone who cannot be broken. Because you've learned that nothing can truly harm you unless you allow it to. Fourth, audit your inputs. What are you feeding your mind? Social media that makes you feel inadequate, news that makes you anxious, people who drain your energy, entertainment that numbs you. Be ruthless here. Because your mind is a fortress, and every piece of content, every conversation, every thought pattern you allow in is either strengthening you or weakening you. Marcus Aurelius was careful about what he exposed himself to. He surrounded himself with philosophy, with wisdom, with people who challenged him to be better. He didn't waste his attention on gossip or triviality, and you have that same choice. You can choose to consume content that elevates you. You can choose relationships that inspire you. You can choose thoughts that empower you. Fifth, end your day with reflection. Before you sleep, review your day. Not with judgment, not with shame, but with curiosity. Where did I respond with wisdom today? Where did I react unconsciously? Where did I give my power away, and tomorrow how can I do better? This practice keeps you accountable. It keeps you growing. And over time you start to notice patterns. You start to see the same triggers, the same weak points, the same habits that are holding you back. And once you see them, you can change them. But you have to look. You have to be honest. You have to do the work. Now here's the part most people don't want to hear. This will not be easy, especially at first. Because you're going against years, maybe decades of conditioning. You're rewiring neural pathways. You're breaking habits that have become part of your identity. And that's uncomfortable. Your mind will resist. It will tell you this is pointless. It will tell you to go back to your old ways. It will tell you you're not strong enough. But that voice is not the truth. That voice is the weakness trying to survive. And every time you choose discipline over that voice, you make it a little quieter. Every time you pause instead of react, you make yourself a little stronger. Every time you reframe instead of spiral, you reclaim a little more power. This is not about perfection. Marcus Aurelius wasn't perfect. He struggled. He doubted, he failed, but he kept showing up, he kept training, he kept guarding his fortress, and that consistency is what transformed him from an emperor into a philosopher, from a man with power into a man with wisdom. You don't need to be an emperor to practice this. You don't need special circumstances or perfect conditions. You just need to decide, today, right now, that you are done being weak, that you are done giving your peace away, that you are done living at the mercy of your undisciplined mind. And when you make that decision, everything changes. Not all at once, but gradually, quietly, deeply. You become someone you respect, someone you trust, someone who can handle whatever life throws at you. Because you've built the fortress, you've trained the mind, you've become disciplined. This is the path Marcus Aurelius walked. And it's the path available to you. But only if you're willing to walk it. Only if you're willing to do what weak people ignore every single day. Only if you're willing to become the person you were always meant to be. So here we are, at the end of this journey. But really, we're at the beginning, because everything we've talked about means nothing unless you use it, unless you take it into your life and apply it, unless you make the decision to become disciplined. And I want you to feel the weight of that decision, because this is not just about self-improvement. This is about self-respect. This is about honoring the life you've been given by refusing to waste it in reaction, distraction, and weakness. This is about becoming the kind of person who can look themselves in the mirror and feel proud. Not because they're perfect, but because they're trying, because they're growing, because they're awake. Marcus Aurelius lived 2,000 years ago. He never knew about smartphones, social media, or the modern chaos you navigate every day. But his wisdom is timeless, because the human mind hasn't changed. The struggle for inner peace hasn't changed. The choice between strength and weakness hasn't changed. And what he discovered, sitting alone in his tent, writing to himself by candlelight, was this: the only battle that truly matters is the one within. The only victory that lasts is the victory over yourself. The only freedom that's real is the freedom of a disciplined mind. You have that same opportunity. Right now. Today. You can decide to stop being a passenger in your own life. You can decide to stop letting your emotions, your fears, your past, your circumstances dictate who you are. You can decide to take back control, to guard your fortress, to train your mind, to become strong. Not loud strong, not aggressive strong, but quiet strong, unshakable strong. The kind of strength that doesn't need to prove itself. The kind of strength that comes from knowing deeply that no matter what happens, you'll be okay, because you have yourself. And that self is disciplined. This is your life. Not someday. Not when things get easier. Right now. And every single day you are either building yourself up or tearing yourself down. You are either training your mind or surrendering it. You are either becoming stronger or becoming weaker. Marcus Aurelius chose strength, not because he was special, but because he committed to the discipline. And now, the choice is yours. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. And more importantly, thank you for being willing to look inward, to question yourself, to grow. That takes courage. And that courage is the first step toward the life you actually want to live. If this resonated with you, subscribe. Share it with someone who needs to hear this. Comment below and let me know. What's one thing you're committing to practicing starting today? Your fortress is waiting. Go guard it.